On this episode of Gameball College Kickoff, we're going to recap a crazy weekend in college football, as well as West Virginia and Texas. Which of those two teams will be winning the Big 12 championship? Luke Hartnett is back in the building, as well as they will touch on that topic, and we'll see who will be on top between those two teams, as well as give you our top 4 matchups going into Week 7 of college football, as well as our predictions. It's officially going down. Gameball College Kickoff begins right now. What's happening, everyone? Welcome to Gameball College Kickoff, where the football season never ends. I'm Marcus Young Genius Jenkins.
I'm Michael Riley.
And I'm Luke Hartnett.
He's back.
Yes, sir.
He is back.
Yeah,
Y'all been waiting for him, and now he is back. There's been
Yeah,
a couple
to our regular viewers, I've kind of been going through some seismic life changes. I just back in July hit my 2-year mark with the post office. I'm still working for the post office, but I'm taking on a full-time job in Kansas City. My first day is next week, October 15th on Monday. So I probably won't be on a podcast for another week or two after that, trying to get, not get my life right, but keep my life right, and just try to, like old Coach Snyder says, become a better person, better player every day. So that's going on with me. But back in the building today.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, and with that being said, we're going to recap a crazy Week 6 in college football.
After a crazy Week 5, after a crazy Week 4, after a crazy Week 3. Pretty much.
That would pretty much sum up the season. It's been wacky for sure. We're going to recap 4 games for you, of course, starting with the Red River Showdown. Texas would defeat Oklahoma by a score of 48-45. We'll get back into that here very shortly. But once again, Texas would defeat the Oklahoma Sooners by a score of 48-15. LSU stunned in this one, 27-19. They would lose to the Florida Gators in this one. Kentucky, no longer among the ranks of the unbeaten. They would fall to Texas A&M by a score of 20-14. We'll see how far they drop.
That's an overtime game.
Overtime, yep. Let's see how far they'll jump from 13. And lastly, Notre Dame, still undefeated at 6-0. They would put in work against Virginia Tech. 45-23 would be the score in that one. We're going to talk about 2 games in particular. The first one we're going to jump into, like we just mentioned, would be the Red River Showdown. And number 19 Texas would defeat Oklahoma 48-45. And just a few side notes before we get into it, guys. Of course, that 48 points would be the most points allowed by the Sooners in the history of the Red River Showdown, and ultimately would cost defensive coordinator Mike Stoops his job. For those who don't know, Mike Stoops is also the younger brother of former Oklahoma football coach Bob Stoops. Excuse me, Luke, it would only be right that we start with you. What do you think about, first of all, the firing of Mike Stoops, then also what do you think about this Texas win?
We did the Big 12 preview. Called it. Oklahoma going to go 10-2. One of the losses going to be to Texas. So I'll, credit for that one. But no, I mean, you can kind of tell that Oklahoma was going to be in a little bit of trouble there with that when they needed overtime to beat Army. I mean, I didn't think Mike Stoops' job was on the line after that Army game, but I mean, for the most part, you can tell that they was going to be 12-0 seemed a little far fetched after that game. So I mean, Texas, they don't know what it is about Texas when they play Oklahoma. They just they play it, win or lose. They play their best game of the year against Oklahoma every year. So they just can't seem to replicate that. They got a little bit better this year. They haven't lost since week 1 at Maryland. So Maryland actually has turned out to be kind of. I think Maryland's going to be that. They probably get 6-7 wins or whatever else. It's not necessarily a bad loss for Texas, but the more the season progresses, it will be. Wouldn't be surprised to at all to see these two teams rematch in the Big 12 championship game. I mean, regular season Big 12, second is as good as first. So I fully expect a rematch between these two.
Wow, it was an ugly game that became a wild game. Texas was beating the brakes off Oklahoma at one point, being up by 21 points. Texas was running all over that defense, throwing all over that defense. Ellinger, the quarterback, the sophomore for Texas, he looked excellent in this game, running and especially throwing. He's getting better development as a passer, but Oklahoma's defense was garbage in this game from start to finish. They were just like garbage. I mean, you get some plays here and there, but they was garbage enough to fire defensive coordinator Mike Stoops, who was also fired at Arizona for these problems because his defense cannot get it done. History has proven that. It's part of the Stoops family. Now the Stoops family is out of that picture. It's time for a new culture, a new voice. So that defense that's what they need. And that was the only Achilles heel is their defense. The offense is going to put up points regardless. But the defense was trash. It was awful. I mean, anybody can make a better play calling than that. Anybody can run through the gaps that Texas was getting through. I'm like, even a Pee Wee Pop Warner football person can run through those gaps. I'm just saying. But realistically, they need to fire. They need a new voice at defense. And the offense almost came back. Kyle Murray with that 69 or 68-yard burst of speed, along with that accuracy pass, he was putting in work. I mean, they was rivaling around him. The offense was there, but it's just the defense of Oklahoma that let them down. And credit to Texas. They did win this game, and Texas on a roll right now after beating USC, beat down TCU, and now Oklahoma. They changed my mind. They're a legit team to beat in the Big 12 as of right now.
They even came out of their house of horrors in Manhattan, Kansas to win a few weeks ago.
Yes, they did. This year's 10-gallon hat goes to the Texas Longhorns. A quick question for the both of you as well is, Ruffin McNeil is the one that's replacing Mike Stoops as defensive coordinator. Granted that it's on an interim basis, but do you think that he can come in immediately and make some sort of change for the
Yes, I do think so, because as you may recall, he was the interim coach at Texas Tech when Mike Leach got let go of there, and he coached Texas Tech to a very inspiring 13-10 Alamo Bowl victory that season. And he eventually took over the head coaching job at East Carolina a year or two after that. He's a good coach, better person, a huge Ruffin McNeil fan.
And I think the players, especially the Coach McNeil, he's a little bit younger. And the younger players seem to rally more around younger coaches than old coaches, if that makes sense. That's what we've been seeing in the past few years of coaching. So I think they'll rally around him and they'll.
If you have a kid, you want him to play for Ruffin McNeil.
Yeah. All right. So I think he'll get the job done and turn it around soon.
All right, the Texas Longhorns continuing to roll. Big win over Oklahoma. The next opponent for the Longhorns, the Baylor Bears, who don't seem to be looking very sharp this season.
Don't think that game will come down to Dicker to kicker.
No, it won't.
All right, the second matchup that we're going to talk about, once again, Notre Dame Fighting Irish improving to 6-0 on the season as they will take care of Virginia Tech by a score of 45-23 in this one. Mike, we'll pass this one to you first. What do you think about this big win by the Fighting Irish?
Well, parts of the game, it was close. It was going back and forth. But once when Notre Dame start to settle down, this is a veteran Notre Dame team. Once they start settle down, then they start clicking. Offense was just clicking, the running game, throwing out cannons for big, long yard runs, especially that 97-yard run by that running back. He was just gone. They would just wear down. And the Notre Dame defense was able to attack Virginia Tech's offenses, mix it up, blitzy schemes, coming up with stunts in the middle, left and right, have the linebacker slant over to the middle side of the defensive tackle and the B gap to blow up that spot, to get penetrations on the back of the field to stop the run, and rush your passer. And former KU quarterback, now Virginia Tech quarterback, was taking too many hits. I mean, that offensive line was terrible in that second half. If you watch that game, he was taking way too many hits, and he got punished for it. They were just going out left and right. The secondary played extremely well in the second half. Overall, Notre Dame showed why they could be the team to get in the college football playoff. They executed well offense, defense, and special teams to go into a hostile environment in Blacksboro, Virginia, to get a good win against a good Virginia Tech team. Now the question is Notre Dame if they win out the rest of the games, will they be in the college football playoff because they're on the outside looking in as the 6th seed, and only thing for them to happen is for the other teams to lose and they need to start winning. So Notre Dame has to win out and they have to get help. But otherwise, Notre Dame had a good game plan. They executed. They got a little sluggish start, but the second half they let it rip.
I mean, in Notre Dame, I agree on the win out part. I don't know. I mean, the kind of help that they really need isn't necessarily the teams in front of them. I mean, if you look at some of those SEC teams, they're going to play each other, whether it be regular season or SEC championship game. They're eventually going to, pinball each other out of there. But what Notre Dame could get some help in, let's say Virginia Tech wins out. They get Miami at home mid-November. Let's say they play Clemson. Wins out regular season. They make ACC championship game. Play presumably Clemson that game. That would help Notre Dame. Let's say Michigan beats Ohio State. That would be a huge feather in Notre Dame's cap there. They have a road game coming up against Northwestern here in a few weeks. Northwestern just went to Michigan State and won over the weekend. Let's say there's season finale at USC. Let's say USC wins, at least the Pac-12 South. And, USC, they're talented enough that should they make it, they can beat Oregon, Stanford, Washington, whoever they're going to play. They'd probably be underdog against any of those teams, but they're certainly good enough to win the Pac-12 championship. So you look at the Notre Dame schedule there. I mean, the teams that they've already beaten, if they keep winning outside of when they play Notre Dame, that only help boost the resume, number one. Number two, I had Notre Dame going 11-1 this year, losing to Virginia Tech. So
that kind of backfired on you.
Yeah, I mean, it's 12-0 is looking like a real possibility right now.
All right, and talk about, really quick, Dexter Williams, the running back for the Fighting Irish. 3 touchdowns, including a 97-yard
That boy's
run
bad.
Straight up the middle.
That boy's bad. If the offensive line continues to do what they do in the blocking game, and he runs very well in space, especially making people miss. He shoots up the gap, and when he's space, he does his little thing, and that's what I like about it. He doesn't do all that juking stuff. He is a violent runner between the tackles, and he does his thing out in space.
All right, a huge win. Once again, Notre Dame improving to 6-0 on the year with a big win against number 24, Virginia Tech.
Waking up the echoes.
Yes, they are. And that's going to conclude the first segment. Coming up, we're going to talk about the Big 12 Conference and 2 teams in particular, West Virginia and Texas. Which one of those 2 teams would be the favorite to win the Big 12 Conference as of right now? Mike and Luke will debate that when we come back right here on Gameball Calls Kickoff. We'll be back in a moment.
Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned.
What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to Gameball Calls Kickoff, where the football season never ends. Now in our second segment, we're going to talk about 2 teams in the Big 12, and that would be between West Virginia, who's undefeated in the Big 12, and Texas, of course, rounding off big win after big win. Since their loss, like you mentioned, Luke, to Maryland in Week 1, it seems like they have just found a way to get it together. The question would be, for both of you, starting with you, Luke, on this one, between these 2 teams, who do you have as your favorite winning the Big 12?
I think Texas is more likely of the 2 to get to the Big 12 championship game. They get West Virginia at home on either the 20th or the 27th. That game's going to be at Austin, so I like Texas to. I assume Texas will be favored in that one. West Virginia, they'll have to play Oklahoma. They get them at Morgantown. That's on Black Friday. But I assume Oklahoma will be favorites in that one as well. The thing that worries me about West Virginia is that they had 4 turnovers against K-State, 4 turnovers against Kansas as well. So, and those are 2 of the 3 or 4 worst teams in the conference, and they got both of them at home as well. So, while the final margin of victory in both them games wouldn't suggest so, 8 combined turnovers against Kansas and Kansas State, that's not going to get it done against Texas, Oklahoma, and Iowa State, whoever else.
As of right now, what have I seen? And I am going to eat some crow, but Texas is a team to beat in the Big 12 right now. For what I've seen after that debacle loss on the road in Maryland, I thought that they were done. But the head coach found a way to get it turned around. Offensively, they're improving, especially in the passing game to go along with that running game. And their defense has improved, taking a big jump from week one to that debacle loss against Maryland. They gave up over 200 yards rushing in week one, I think it was, against Maryland. But in week two, they found a way to stop the run, to make opponents' offense one-dimensional. Look what they did to USC. Look what they did to TCU. And now look what they did to Oklahoma. That shows you how much they improved, even though they did give up 21 unanswered points in the fourth quarter against Oklahoma. But when it came time to, they got the job done. The offense was able to produce a critical first down to keep the drive alive and to put the kicker in field goal range to kick the winning field goal. So as of right now, Texas is the team to beat in the Big 12. My question is with West Virginia. The last 3 games in the second half, they've given up a lot of points to make this game close. But the offense is able to pull away at the end. But I'm afraid that they're going to run into a team that once they get into the fourth quarter, will the West Virginia defense able to finish? Because this week going against Iowa State, we all know Iowa State and Ames, Iowa can be tricky, and they'll knock off teams without the back. Even though the record says wise, but Iowa State is a tough place to play, especially for any ranked opponent.
All right, both Luke and Mike deciding on Texas. I have to agree with the both of you as well.
I do kind of hope that West Virginia and North Carolina State keep winning, though, just because they were supposed to play week 3, and the game's not going to be made up. So, I mean, if both those teams go 12-0 and win their, the respective conference championships, I mean, they almost have to be one of the semifinals in the playoff, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, even if they drop a game or two along the way, you put them in, a New Year's Six game head-to-head or something. I mean, we deserve to see them two play.
Right.
Why not? I don't see why not. I mean, all right, that's going to do it for this second segment. Coming up, of course, we're going to bring you the top 4 matchups to look out for in Week 7 of college football, as well as give you our predictions. Stay tuned right here. Gameball College Kickoff. We'll be back in a minute. What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to Gameball College Kickoff, where the football season never ends. In our third segment, of course, we're going to bring to you the top 4 matchups to be on the lookout for in Week 7, starting with number 2 Georgia taking on number 13 LSU. Luke, I'm going to kick it over to you first. What do you like about this matchup?
Georgia's going to LSU, as you mentioned. It's going to be a 2:30 local time kick in Baton Rouge. Georgia, going to be their stiffest test of the season. They've really played nothing but mediocrity up to this point. Not a very challenging non-conference schedule. Partial of that's because they played Georgia Tech, an ACC opponent, the Thanksgiving weekend every year. So I give them a bit of a pass on that. They did play South Carolina and Tennessee from the SEC East. It's not really Georgia's fault. None of those teams are living up to their billing this year. They do have Kentucky on the schedule coming up here in a few weeks. They got Florida, as they always do in Jacksonville. So we'll learn a lot about Georgia here before long, between Kentucky, Florida, this weekend at LSU, and they have a home game against Auburn, I believe, a week or two before the Georgia Tech game. So they're about to be tested, but they're probably the least known top 5, top 10 team just based off of the lack of competition they faced up to this point.
It's could be a grudge match early point, but it depends on which team will play. We all know Georgia's playing some good ball right now. They always play tough the first part, then blow it out the water the second half. And against LSU, it's going to be tough, and LSU's coming off a very tough loss this past weekend. they got a bad taste in their mouth and they want to let it all out. So they're going to be trying to get over that loss and try to upset Georgia to stay in the conversation for the SEC title run, especially in the 14 playoffs. So LSU's still alive, but if LSU loses, they're pretty much out. So offense has to be better than what they did, especially late in the fourth quarter of the game, throwing that pick six, which is a head scratcher. What was you thinking? Boneheaded play calling. Just run the ball, just run the clock out, and play good defense. Then defense has to step up better and finish out games. They have Florida lead the whole entire game until that moment, to where they gave up a big play that led into a touchdown, and they was back into this game.
No, so, Dan Mullen's got LSU's number. Remember, he was at Mississippi State last year. They went to Baton Rouge and won 37-7.
Yes, they
so,
did.
I mean, and it was a home game for Florida too. I'm getting kind of off topic here, but Mullen, he's got LSU figured out.
Then defense has to play better. Now for Georgia, just keep doing what you're doing. Play smash mouth football offensively, run the ball effectively, be consistent in the passing game with Jake Fromm. And I like Georgia receivers. They go out and make plays to get the ball, especially that diving catch. Man, that was amazing. So, and their defense in Georgia, they're still playing Georgia defense. They have not missed a beat from last year, even though they lost to the national championship game in Alabama, but they still hasn't missed a beat at all this season. They have a couple of hiccups here and there, but mostly they play good ball in the second half. So it comes down to which team plays very well in the second half and which team does not make the least mistakes.
All right, LSU looking to bounce back from a huge loss to the Florida Gators last week, bouncing from number 5 to number 13, gentlemen. So we'll see how they play against Georgia and see if they can make up for that critical loss. Number 2 matchup, number 7 Washington taking on number 17 Oregon. Mike, what do you like about this matchup between Washington and Oregon?
It could get tricky, and it could be a dogfight. Oregon still got that bad taste in the mouth for losing to Stanford at home. They let that game slip away. Even though a controversial call, I still say it was a touchdown, but it was another subject for another day. But Oregon is finding a way to play some good football. They're starting to get back in rhythm offensively, and defense is starting to play a little bit better. If they continue to do that, they get a big win against a big-time opponent in Washington, which they haven't had in a long time. For Washington, their offense is starting to improve better. Their offensive line is starting to gel better since that Week 1 debacle loss. Not debacle, but that close loss against Auburn. Then their offenses start flowing, and Jake Browning is starting to look like Jake Browning like we seen a few years back. And the running back Gaskin, he's something special, and their receivers is starting to click on as well. And their defense is starting to look like Washington's defense of, they're playing some good ball, especially that front seven. And they got one of the best secondaries in the country. So they're playing some good ball. So it comes down to which team will take advantage at the end to win the game.
All right. Number 7, Washington. Number 17, Oregon. That's going to take us back to the Big 12, and that is number 6, West Virginia taking on Iowa State. Luke, we'll start with you on this one.
If West Virginia doesn't start protecting the ball better, they're bound to lose, and that's I want to say it's a trap game for West Virginia because I think they're fully aware of what kind of team Iowa State is. Iowa State went to Stillwater last week, and they actually had their offense going pretty well. They've come a long way since that Week 2 performance against Iowa, where they lost, I believe, 17-3 or whatever the score was there. So, now to be fair, Iowa State did kind of have it going on, on the offensive side of the ball against Oklahoma the following week. But as we come to find out, Oklahoma's got a fired defensive coordinator. Not directly as a result of that, but I guess indirectly you would say. But not a trap game for West Virginia, but just a tough game.
This could be a trap game for West Virginia because West Virginia, the fourth quarter, I'm starting to question to where their play calling offensively and defensively. Late in parts of the fourth quarter, defense has to bail out the offense, because they gave up a big lead against Texas Tech. They damn near gave a big lead to Kansas at one point, but they blew Kansas out the water. Let's just say that for fact. And another week they played opponent and gave up big points like that. So it's their defense in the fourth quarter moments that I'm starting to worry about. And can the offense close out games? Because even though Iowa State has a 2-3 record, they still can play ball. And you're going to a very hostile environment in Ames, Iowa, to where it can be a track game. It can be tricky. So West Virginia has to be careful of that. And for Iowa State, they got a good win on the road against a very good team, and their offense is starting to find a rhythm. You start seeing more of the running game being effective. You start seeing the pass game to be more efficient, and the defense is finding a way to make plays. It may not be pretty at times, but the defense finds a way to make plays at the end to get the job done. So it's going to take to which team has the ball last to make enough plays to win the games offensively.
All right, West Virginia, the unbeaten team of the Big 12, and tied for first with Texas as well, taking on Iowa State. Moving from that conference to the Big 10, number 15, Wisconsin, number 12, Michigan. Luke, what do you like about this matchup?
These two teams have kind of been home teams kind of had the edge the last 5, 6, 7 years between these two. Been a while since Wisconsin's gone to the Big House and won. It's going to be the ABC primetime game of the week, Saturday night. Not a lot of night games in Michigan Stadium. If I'm not mistaken, the 2011 game against Notre Dame was the first night game in Michigan history, Michigan home history, that is. So, Wisconsin. The more the weeks go by, the more puzzling that loss at home to BYU is, because BYU kind of got skunked by Washington a few weeks ago, and then they turned around and get equally as clocked against Utah State last week. So. Really not sure what to make about that. Meanwhile, Michigan, they come with one loss as well, but it was week one at Notre Dame, which is as the weeks progress, kind of self-explanatory in that one. So it'll be a vintage Big Ten football game, though. It's going to be 17-10, 2017, regardless of which team wins. That typical Big Ten game, though. We all know what to expect.
This game's going to come down to who's going to be in the college football playoff conversation and which team's going to go to the Big Ten championship game. I think Wisconsin's on the outside of the other conference in the Big Ten as Michigan. I think that's about right. But it's going to come down to which one-loss team would keep their chances high in the college football playoff. Because this game, everything's on the line. Both teams have one loss, and they cannot afford another loss. They have to win to keep the other team from getting into the playoff conversation and keep their hopes alive. So it's going to come down to how West Conference offense is going to attack that ferocious Michigan defense, especially that secondary and that front seven. Michigan, in my opinion, has the best overall talent defense-wise in the country, besides Alabama and Clemson. But they are loaded, especially the front seven. And I like their linebackers. They are sideline to sideline, mentally sound. And the secondary is something special. This is kind of like the secondary when the Seattle Seahawks had the Legion of Boom. This is kind of what Michigan's secondary looks like. They communicate very well. They play good defense. And they let each other know who man they got, and they shut it down. So how will Wisconsin's offense be able to go up against Michigan's defense, and how will Shane Patterson go up against Wisconsin's offense? So we'll have to find out and see. It's going to come down to is who's going to make the least amount of mistakes and who's going to make the plays at the end to win this game. Everything's on the line for these two teams.
All right, big matchups in college football. That's going to take us to our final part of the episode, and that is the world famous predictions. Mike, I'm going to start with you with Georgia and LSU. Who do you got?
I'm going with Georgia. Georgia is on a hot streak. They're playing some good ball, especially defense. Offenses, they're going to be there, but defense is playing phenomenal football. They just find ways to get turnovers to turn into points. And LSU, their playoff run is over. I'm going to say it. I hate to say it, but LSU's done. And they'll probably go to a bowl game, but it won't be the college team playoff. So I see Georgia winning on the road, score of 31-17 Georgia.
Mike saying back-to-back losses for the Tigers.
Georgia's first real test of the year this year. LSU, they just not only get beat last week, they kind of got beat up. Florida's one of the more physical teams, and that's only going to increase the longer that Mullen's going to be there for. But I agree with Mike. I think Georgia's going to maybe I'm thinking it's going to be like a 14-14 game at halftime, 14-13 maybe. But I just think Georgia's going to be able to have more second half stamina, more second half depth than LSU has, and Georgia's just a more talented team. I think they're. I don't know that LSU has. I mean, Georgia has. I think we can all agree they have better skill position players. DeAndre Swift, the running back. You touched on the receivers or whatever else. Jake Fromm coming back and whatever. So LSU is really their only real hope is to be able to win up front, and they're going to be equal at best with Georgia. I don't think they have a better offensive or defensive line than Georgia does. And football been played for over 100 years. One thing that's never changed. It's one of the trenches. So I like Georgia to win this one by. I think LSU gives it's going to be a game effort, but I like Georgia 28-20.
All right, both Mike and Luke choosing Georgia. I agree with both of you. I think Georgia is just a better talented team. I think defensively, I think they'll show up in the second half. I think that'll make the difference. I'm going to say 21-14, I think I would have Georgia over this one. The question I do want to ask you, if it does happen that LSU does drop the second game in a row, does this put this team out of the top 25, or do they kind of barely hang on maybe towards maybe the 20, maybe 21 mark or so?
I say the 20-20 mark, since Georgia is highly ranked. Once ranked team plays each other, then they'll drop off like a couple numbers down, maybe 3. But if it wasn't an unranked opponent, they'll be out the top 25.
Yeah, if Georgia wins 45-0, they'll be unranked. But that's kind of a far fetch. So I think they'll be in that 20-21 range. Yes.
All right, Georgia and LSU. The second one. Luke, we're going to start with you. Washington and Oregon. Who do you like in that one?
I like Washington in this one. Last time they went to Autzen Stadium 2 years ago, they won 70-21, and the rematch in Seattle last year wasn't. It was a lot closer. It was a very game Oregon effort, but Washington was just a superior team. As long as Chris Peterson's coaching at Washington, it's going to be very far and few between when I pick against them. You look at that loss to Stanford. I mean, Stanford turns around. They hung in there with Notre Dame until about the mid-third quarter, but they were down 21-0 first half to Utah. Utah's a respected team, but I think Stanford should be even if they're going to lose, they shouldn't be falling behind like they did there. So I understand Oregon had the big lead and kind of should have been up 31-7. Then they but took the touchdown away. Then Stanford scored the next play, 94 yards on the fumble return or whatever. So which just changed everything in that one. And I get all that, but even if they get the touchdown and Oregon goes up 31-7, wins the game, beats Stanford, whatever else, I still think Washington's going to go in there and win. I just think Washington's the best team in the Pac-12 this year. So I got Washington. They got Gaskin going. They got Browning going. I like them by 38-27.
I've been messing around with this pick. I'm gonna go with Washington because overall they're a better team. Offensively, they're still trying to find their ways a little bit. They're starting to come along, and defense is always going to be the defense. It's going to be a physical game, and I must say Washington wins this one, score of 30-24. Washington wins on the road. It's going to be a dogfight, but I say Washington is going to win, make more plays than Oregon to win on the road.
All right. I'm going to pick Washington as well. Not going to really say too much into that. I just think they're just playing better football right now overall.
And they still have a chance to make the college football playoff, depending on the outcome of possibly the Big Ten and the Big 12.
All right. All three of us choosing the Washington Huskies to top the Oregon Ducks in this one.
They'd also need Notre Dame to lose along the way at one point or another, I think.
Yeah, I did forget about that, yeah.
All right, we're going to jump to the Big 12. West Virginia currently undefeated in conference play, taking on Iowa State. Mike, I'm going to start with you. Do West Virginia have a chance to remain unbeaten?
I'm going with the jury of my conviction. Upset, I'm going with Iowa State. I just don't trust West Virginia enough on the road in a hostile environment. Yes, they have a better record. Yes, they have the best raw offense. But the last few games to the fourth quarter is a concern. They give up points and almost damn near loses games. And Ames, Iowa, they're playing some good ball despite their record. And they only lost by 7 or less points. Except for that Iowa loss, but the last 3 games they played has been close in their losses. So I'm going to go with jury of my conviction. I'm going with my gut. I'm going to say Iowa State upsets West Virginia at home in a very close game, score of 17-14 Iowa State Cyclones.
Upset alert. Luke, do you agree?
I think West Virginia gets the late touchdown and wins 21-17, actually.
All right, now
I think West Virginia understands what kind of hornet's nest they're going into. Will Greer, he's experienced. He knows he's got to protect the football a little bit better than that. I think they rely a little bit more on the running game against Iowa State as well. Probably going to be a 14-14-ish game at halftime. Tell you what, Iowa State, though, everyone always says they got the best fans or whatever their team. I'll never forget this about Iowa State. 2015, they're playing a home game at Jag Tri-Stadium against Kansas, a Kansas team that would go 0-12 that year. I think Iowa State maybe won 2 or 3 games, the Kansas game being one of them. There was still a sold-out 55,000 people there. They have the best fans in college football. I don't care what anybody else says. I'll always remember that game for that reason.
I'm going to say I think the Mountaineers, I think they will find a way to remain unbeaten. One question I do want to ask you quickly as well. We all agree on, Luke, you and I agree on that as well. Do you think, Luke, that West Virginia can they roll through the Big 12 and remain unbeaten in conference to the championship?
No. They have to go to Texas here in a week or 2 after the Iowa State game, and then you got the Black Friday matchup against Oklahoma as well. No, I'm not counting on them. I got them losing at least those 2 games. Matter of fact, probably only those 2 games. I got them going 10. Well, I guess it'd be 9-2.
All right, and go ahead, Mike.
I have a hunch. When my hunch tells me something is about to happen, something's about to happen. So I'm going with my hunch. It has not failed me wrong as of lately, but I'm going with that hunch.
The thing that worries me about Iowa State is they have a game against Texas still, too, amongst other teams as well. This would be their 4th loss of the year already. So they lost to Iowa, they lost to TCU, they lost to Oklahoma. They lose to West Virginia. That's going to be a 4th loss for them. So, at some point, bowl eligibility could become an issue for them.
All right, will the Mountaineers remain unbeaten? That's going to be yet to be seen. This coming Saturday, we're going to find out. And if they lose, what would that do to their chances of the college football playoff, as they're currently ranked number 6? Going into the last matchup, Mike, we'll start with you on this one. Number 15, Wisconsin. Number 12, Michigan. Who do you got in that matchup?
I got Michigan at home. They're playing better football after what we saw in week 1. They're starting to get going. Shane Patterson is starting to click in with that offense, especially the pro-style type of offense from the center. He's starting to be more better at it because Jim Harbaugh was slammed. He's like, spread it out, do the run-pass option, this and that. But once you continue to work with the quarterback and show him the right way, he'll grow into it, and it's starting to pay off for what I'm noticing. And that Michigan defense is a beast, especially at home. It's a big-time game. I don't think Wisconsin's going to run wild, and Wisconsin's going to be relying on the passing game. That's not their MO. They're going to be a one-dimensional offense. I say Michigan has way too many playmakers, and they're loaded on defense. The front 7 as well as the secondary, so they can rotate players in to give them fresh legs, and that's an advantage for the team defense to do like that. So I'm gonna say Michigan wins at home. It'll be close early. I'll say 10-13 Michigan, but Michigan starts to roll away, rolls the train going. So I'm gonna say the score of 35-10. Michigan wins at home.
All right, Luke, who do you got?
Both teams are actually undefeated in Big Ten play this year. Oddly enough, both their losses come to Independence as well. So, but I mean, Wisconsin's already got that road win over Iowa, which is just huge for them. They could. I think it's a foregone conclusion they're going to win the Big Ten West Division this year. I mean, I can't even tell you the second best team in there is. I mean, I guess it's probably still Iowa, but they're theoretically 2 games back because they lost the tiebreaker. Michigan, they last time they played in Ann Arbor 2 years ago, they won a very, very, if there's such a thing as a thrilling 14-7 game, Michigan did it. Wisconsin went in protected home field last year at Camp Randall, won 24-10. I think Michigan returns the favor and wins 24-10 in the Big House this year.
All right. I'm going to agree with both of you as well. I think Michigan, it's Harbaugh time. It's prime time, a night game in Michigan. Bright lights are on. This is what Harbaugh likes. I'm going to pick the Wolverines as well to top Wisconsin. I'm going to say they're going to win this one 28-14. I'm going to say it's the score on this one.
Well, we might see another night game in Michigan here in another week or two afterwards. They got Penn State coming in here before long.
That's going to be a good matchup as well. I'm pretty sure that's going to be a matchup we're going to be talking about soon as well. So be on the lookout for that as well. That's going to do it for this edition of Gameball College Kickoff.
Social media, Facebook, you can follow us at Gameball College Kickoff / Gameball NFL Izzo. Email, send us an email what you think about us and give us a good feedback at gck.gnfle@gmail.com. Follow us on our official Twitter page, GCK_GNFLE. You can also follow your boy, all caps, Gameball_Mike, MYKE. You can also follow us on Instagram, GCK_GNFLE. Get your gear on our clothing website at tokandesignstopeka.com/Gameball. That's TOKAN. Token, not toucan, designstopeka.com/Gameball. Like, subscribe, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Thumbs up, thumbs down. You like it, dislike it on our YouTube channel at gck.gnfletv. I'm going to pass it on to you, brother.
All right, as always, you can find me on Facebook, Marcus Jovell ENT Jenkins, and also coming up, also be on the lookout to like the official business page for Jovell Entertainment. So everything with Jovell Entertainment, including this podcast as well, you'll have content on a daily basis with that. So be on the lookout for that and be ready to like that page. Also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Jovell ENT.
Draped in gold.
Yes, sir.
As y'all know, I'm Luke Hartnett. Find me on Facebook as Luke Hartnett. That's HARTNETT, Luke, spelled like the biblical version. Twitter as Luke Hartnett 2 because I'm Luke Hartnett 1.
All right, and that's going to do it once again for this edition of Gameball Cards Kickoff. Also be on the lookout for the next installment of Gameball NFL End Zone as well. I'm Marcus Young Genius Jenkins.
I'm Michael Riley.
I'm Luke Hartnett.
All right, and we'll see you soon.